The end of the year is often a time for reflections, a brief pause during the daily grind where we take a few moments to think back over our actions, our accomplishments, and even our failures for the year. How you feel about 2018 will, of course, depend on what occurred during the year for you. For me, however, 2018 revolved around one central theme: transitions. Yes, 2018 was essentially a transitional year for me. Many things ended, many new things began, and my views and opinions on franchises and companies have even fallen under this. While things I used to be excited for, I'm less enthusiastic about, new things and experiences have taken root and broadened my horizons, or in some cases, caused me to rediscover some old friends. So let's take a moment to reflect on the year that was, and let me kind of summarize the year that 2018 was. The year began simply enough. I decided that I was going to catch up on the Neptunia franchise. In fact, on December 31st of 2017, I platinumed Cyber Dimension Neptunia for Goddesses Online. So the next logical step was to take a trip back to the past, to the PS3, in order to go ahead and finally finish Hyper Dimension Neptunia Victory. Thankfully, all I needed to do was get the true ending and do some cleanup for the platinum, which was done by the 13th. From there, it was on to Mega Dimension Neptunia V2, which arguably was the best thing I played all year. But certainly, it is the best Neptunia title in my book. V2 came at a time where, honestly, I was having a rough patch. And often, it's during those times where you need a good game the most. V2 was that game, and through the month of February, I played to my heart's content. Which brings us to March. March for me had begun with Hyper Devotion Noir Goddess Blackheart, which was a game I didn't have high hopes for. I wasn't a fan of Noir or her tsundere tendencies, nor the way she treats Uni at times. And to the fact that there's an original male character who's basically Noir's love interest, and most people don't tend to not like the game. Which is a shame, because I put it in the top 3 games of the franchise. I'm not even kidding about that. This was the game that Noir needed, and honestly, the Neptunia franchise needed. Not only was the game strictly about her, and not about Neptune, it developed her character, showed a different side to her. And in addition, the turn-based strategy elements are really fun. Sure, they can be a bit tedious at times, but there's a lot of love put into this adorable strategy RPG. And you really should give it a shot. Heck, I even love the Secretary character. He's basically a jab at the faceless insert original characters, which is something Compile Art and Idea Factory are known for. Really, this was an amazing surprise. Sadly, though, it would be the last pleasant surprise for me when it came to Neptunia. After a small hiatus, I resumed my quest in August. From then until September, it was a marathon of Mega Tag Dimension Blonde plus Neptune vs. Zombies, Super Dimension Neptune vs. Segahar Girls, Hyper Dimension Neptunia Rebirth 2, and Hyper Dimension Neptunia Rebirth 3. All of which range from okay to disappointing to irritating. While Blonde vs. Zombies felt a bit confused about what kind of game it wanted to be, versus Segahar Girls and Rebirth 2 fell into the irritating side of things. One due to forcibly inserting Neptune as a motorcycle into it and taking the focus off of the actual main characters, IF and Segami, and the other for being such a lackadaisical remake that Compile Heart actually copied and pasted the dialogue from the true ending into the Holy Sword ending and called it a day. Considering Mark II is one of my favorite titles, you can imagine how well this sat with me. As for Rebirth 3, it was fine, though someone went a little crazy with the level curve for the final couple of DLC bosses. Seriously, I've never had to grind this much in the Neptunia game. All this necessitated a short break, which afterwards I just needed to finish tackling Mega Dimension Neptunia V2R, a game I have been playing off and on again since April. Originally, I was going to write a comparison piece about the game to the original V2, and maybe something about the VR mode. However, look, in short, I really dislike V2R. It took a wonderful game and basically sucked out all the fun for me. I'll save my thoughts on it for another day, but simply put, Compile Heart tried to overhaul something that needed tweaking and instead broke the game for me. Better graphics and animations are nice, but when you drastically change the way a game functions, you run the risk of alienating people from something they enjoy. But yeah, by the end of September, I had done it. Neptunia complete. So now what? Well, Nep wasn't the only thing I was working on. I was also trying to platinum a game a month, and thanks to a few other projects, my platinum of V2R helped me obtain that goal as well. At the beginning of the year, I was still writing for Operation Rainfall. As part of this, I was doing a Let's Play of Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash, which I ended up finishing in February. Turns out that was fortunate because in March I platinumed to review Haku Okiedo Blossoms. Both of these titles are okay. PBS was disappointing because it was its confusing patchwork story, which hasn't stuck with me over the year. And Hakuoki was disappointing mainly because it was the second part of a game that was never meant to be two parts. Thankfully, another game came around at the end of April that was not only awesome, but kept me busy until July. Super Robot Wars X. If there's one title I poured way too many hours into this year, it was Super Robot Wars X. I ended up doing 3 playthroughs of the game just to see everything I wanted to. 2 with Omori, the female protagonist, and 1 with Iori. Mainly because I wanted to see both the regular and the true ending with Omori, and with Iori I just needed to get one ending, so I went for the true ending with him. While I won't say the game is perfect by any means, it's still leagues above many of the games I played this year, and stands with Noir and the original V2 as probably my favorite titles that I've played during 2018. In fact, it was the game that carried me through what I planned to be my final E3 and Anime Expo. Yep, at the beginning of June, I had graduated with my associate's degree, so my plan was to try and look for work in the gaming industry. Most likely doing testing and eventually working my way up to either something in IT, localization, or public relations. With that in mind, I was going to leave Operation Rainfall, my home for the last 4 years, at the end of July, which made these 2 conventions rather bittersweet for me. I said goodbye to old friends, including Kenichiro Takaki of Senran Kagura fame, Yasuhiro Wada, creator of Harvest Moon, Mizuno-san and Sunako-san from the Neptunia franchise, and I even got to meet one of the creators behind Muv-Luv, a project that was something I covered during my very first Anime Expo's press. Talk about coming full circle. But all good things must come to an end, so at the end of July, I hung up my reporter's badge and decided to take some time off and continue clearing the backlog, Neptunia or otherwise. In September, I also ended up clearing Amnesia Memories, an Idea Factory International game that had long been on my backlog. It was bizarre to say the least and uncomfortable at worst. I really don't know what possessed IFI to bring this particular otome to the West, but I don't feel it was a good choice, both narratively and in terms of quality assurance. One thing that 2018 has given me is an appreciation for the many strengths and weaknesses of both Idea Factory International and Compile Heart. When you consider that I was going back to play games that were released as early as 2013 in the case of Neptunia Victory, you start to see how a series evolves. For better or worse, there is a formula to these games. Unfortunately, making the games in as economical a way as possible is part of that formula, and it shows. I think just about every IFI game I played this year had some sort of text bug, be it improperly formatted text, text overruns, or even untranslated text. If there's a part of the budget where IFI is trying to spend less, it feels like it's quality assurance. Which is a shame considering I understand how passionate that team is having met them. That being said, Compile Heart aren't much better as designers. For parts of entire games are reused in the case of Fairy Fencer F and Monster Monpiece, 2 games I cleared as I decided to tackle the rest of my IFI backlog. I was actually enjoying both of these titles up until the same point. For Monster Monpiece it was Chapter 9, and for Fairy Fencer F it was the midpoint of the game. Both of these games do the exact same thing. You're forced to go through every area you've been through again. Not new areas, the same maps with some different enemies. All just to extend the length of the game. Monster Monpiece is especially bad at this, but Fairy Fencer F deserves a mention as well. While in Fairy Fencer F there's a narrative reason, it's still blatantly obvious this was done to pad out the game. Thankfully, there is a game that Compile Heart did which is properly done, and that's Moe Chronicle. Moe Chronicle was one of the first Asian English releases, and it really shows. The text is an absolute mess, and while it is readable, as a former editor, it drives me crazy. However, this game also has you reusing a lot of assets, but does so in a way that it doesn't really feel like it's padding. Once you've beaten the game, you can go back to all the previous dungeons to find sealed areas. These areas have their own layouts and rather strong enemies. Plus, you need to clear them to get the true ending and to get the platinum. All in all, if it had a properly localized translation, it'd probably be amazing. Though it's still far more difficult than it needs to be. Moe Chronicle instead suffers from something a little different, making the game too unfair at times. Namely, paralysis is something that will cause a party wipe if everyone is afflicted by it. Yep, if the entire party is paralyzed, it's game over. Even though we have Io, the guy whose sole purpose is to use items and buff your party, and you can imagine this did not sit well with me. To make matters worse, paralysis preventing equipment isn't all that cheap or common. The best you can buy only reduces the chance of it happening. So save early and often indeed. However, the worst compile heart game when it comes to being unfair is Omega Quintet by a continent and a half. I've never been more appreciative of a game, yet infuriated by it at the same time. While I've posted a video of my fight with Double X, Omega Quintet is something I really should go more into depth on at some point. For now, let me just say this. I appreciate all that this game did to create Neptunia V2. If it wasn't for Omega Quintet, that game would not be as amazing as it is. However, someone on the design team either thought the game was too easy, or really just did not want the player to have fun, since the order break system makes this an over-designed mess. What started out as a fun idle RPG that reminded me of both Symphogear and Vivid Operation went to being a controller-throwing aggravation fest. Unfair is the best way to describe it. While I'm still debating what my worst game that I played during 2018 was, this makes the shortlist for sure. Sadly, though, this would be the last IFI game I would finish in 2018 due to a certain platform designed to enact some new policies. In October, we learned that Senran Kagura Burst Renewal was being delayed thanks to Sony deeming the intimacy mode inappropriate for the PlayStation platform. In addition, it soon came to light that Japanese developers were being asked to submit games for content checks in English, strongly hinting that a Western branch of Sony was now approving content for Japan. You know, instead of Japan. And as you might imagine, this did not sit well with me. In fact, this was a major contributing factor to me deciding to write again. So thanks, Sony! You turned my retirement into a 5-minute one. I won't rehash my thoughts on the subject since I've already written an article on Hey Poor Player about that, but in short, this really bugged me. It killed my desire to continue my Platinum quest, so after having already obtained my Neptunia goal, gotten over 12 Platinums, and cleared almost all of the IFI backlog, for the record, I'm only missing Trillion, God of Destruction, Fairy Fencer, Advent Dark Force, Black Rose Valkyrie, and Mayq Labyrinth of Death, I decided I'd done enough and turned my attention to other games and platforms. The first of which I actually played in August, which was Highway Blossoms, a Yuri Kinetic novel which was really quite enjoyable. The best surprise, though, was the fact that this was voice acted in English, and it really did help sell some of the scenes. I'd like to talk about this one in depth a little bit more in the future. But in short, give it a shot. Honestly, the production values alone are worth the buy, and even though I have some issue with the ending and some character development, I'd still give it a hearty recommendation. Also, it was the only Steam and PC VN I finished this year. I need to fix that in 2019. But instead of more PC games, it was time to swap to a brand new platform. One that was a bit of a reunion for me with an old friend by the name of Koei Tecmo. It was time to play Warriors Orochi 4 on the Xbox One X. Yes, just before Black Friday, I decided to buy myself an Xbox One X since I wanted to move off the PlayStation platform as much as I could. If I've got no choice, fine. But if I have options, I'm taking them. So with a new console and a game to play, I set about working to unlock every achievement in Warriors Orochi 4. Took about a month, but I greatly enjoyed my reunion with the Warriors franchise, something I really hadn't played in a good couple of years. With that done, I decided to venture out of my comfort zone and use the Xbox Game Pass system to go ahead and try something new. Forza Horizon 4. Yeah, this year I've also been delving into watching a few racing series, be it Formula E, IMSA, or Super GT, which even has a Hatsune Miku Hitasha! But I digress. A racing sim is not something I'd really played before, so how would playing one of the most well-known racing sims go? Okay, except for the parts where I had no idea what I was doing wrong. Yeah, it took 131 hours, but I did manage to get all the achievements unlocked. The biggest problem I had with Forza Horizon 4 is that if you don't actually drive and don't understand the finer mechanics of how cars work, it can get a little frustrating at times when you need to do things like drift or take really tight turns. I've never had a license for a car, just my motorcycle one. And there are some differences between driving a motorcycle and driving a car. In fact, it got almost as frustrating as Omega Quintet at times. But thankfully, I never felt the game was unfair. Just bad at communicating how to fix what I was doing wrong. But yes, Forza complete. So my year was, right? Of course not! How can we forget about Lillian and Nakama? Yes, the other big development was that I started using this channel to do Let's Plays once again. Starting with Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. The adventure of Lillian and Nakama has been an interesting one so far. While I'm not sold on the idea of Let's Go, it's not terrible, just very annoying at times, I feel. Since I have those videos up for you to enjoy, I'll let you hear my thoughts there. But really, this was coming full circle. I went from doing Let's Plays and a few vlogs over 10 years ago to writing for a major website to now writing for another website and doing Let's Plays again. And as terrible as the early stuff was, and trust me, it really was, I hope I've grown over those 10 years. Like I said when I started this video, 2018 was a year of transitions. From Operation Rainfall to Play Poor Player, from PlayStation to Xbox, from graduating college to a job search, and from Let's Playing for a professional site to doing it for my own channel once again. It has been a year of endings and new beginnings. As for 2019, well, that's another topic altogether. However, I look forward to what the year will bring and to the new games, challenges, and experiences I'll encounter. Hopefully, with all of you. Yoi otoshi o mukae kudasai. Or, have a happy new year, everyone, and I'll see you all in 2019. Jamata.